Chris Hart, who is an asset manager at Impact Investment Africa in Johannesburg, and he joins us now on the program. Good evening, and it's good to see you again, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. What are the key takeaways for you from today's Reserve Bank announcements?
I think the first thing is I think we're looking at the bottom of the interest rate cycle. There might be another 25 basis points in November, but I think what's also clear is that the assessment of the economy is essentially looking in the rearview mirror. The Reserve Bank's assessment of the economy is deteriorating, and we're seeing this as a continual pattern as this virus the lockdown measures have been implemented and the time has unfolded. The actual forecast has been getting progressively worse. And so each time we meet, we're getting a further downgrade in the actual growth forecast. However, with the economy now starting to be opened up and us going down to what we call now level 1, we're going to open up for a bit of international travel. That will help the tourism sector somewhat in the fourth quarter. So we probably will see some positive growth in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. But I think the pattern that we're seeing at the moment is that the data that's coming out is consistently worse than forecast. So when we take a look at the Reserve Bank's current growth forecast of negative 8.2%, we compare that against the IMF's double-digit decline for the year. I think we still have got some catching up to do. What we've seen around the world, where you've had the more severe the shutdown, the more severe the economic contraction. And that we can see with a number of economies around the world. In the US, in fact, you can see the microcosm states that have remained reasonably closed have seen a much more severe contraction in their local economy compared to the rest of the economy, which is in fact bouncing back quite strongly. Wherever they've opened up, they have bounced back. And I think we're hoping that South Africa will be in the same position, that they bounce back quite quickly. But there are some other factors that are holding us back. The economy, as we reiterate, was weak going into the economy and the fact or the shutdown. And those factors that caused the economy to go into recession ahead of the shutdown are not really being addressed. We do need to see a really focused effort to make the country more investable and more competitive compared to external factors. We've got the private sector, the corporate sector is really in a very, very weak state at the moment, probably its weakest state in several decades, so certainly since the 80s, and it may well be, quite a bit longer than that. And we do need to see a revival in that sector. And for that, we need to get back to work. We need to get the sectors opened up. The tourism sector is still, for all intents and purposes, still shut. It's very important to the economy.
Yes, Chris, are there revisions in terms of growth outlook, headline inflation about 3.3% for this year? Are they consistent with general expectations as the Reserve Bank governor was sounding optimistic?
Yes, I think the Reserve Bank, they would reflect a bit of optimism now that the economy is turning around. They will see the earliest signs of improvement in the economy because they've got the strongest and deepest research team, so they'll be able to reflect that. And it's certainly our hope that we will, that we have seen the worst, that we will see a recovery, pulling through as we go forward in the next, the next few months. And I think that'll give cause of encouragement. I think the South African Stock Exchange is busy, you could say, it's really looking for direction, looking for new news. The financial side of the financial index of the stock exchange is one that's taken really a big hit because we know that the bad debts, for instance, the bank profits alone have plunged quite a bit this year. And it may well be some time before we see the actual financial services get some balance again and some growth. I think the biggest problem is that their customers are struggling. The banks at you could say, the forefront of a deterioration in credit quality as the customers, in other words, the general population.
So Chris, Chris, just a quick one. So how do you get the banks, the transmission mechanism here of every economy? So you need them. So how do we get the South African banks back and running quickly if their profit is not going to return until about 10 years' time? So could that be a drawback on the overall economic forward movement?
Well, one of the measures that's in place is a government guarantee mechanism for businesses to actually access to try and get loans to boost their and cover costs that they've had to bear over this lockdown period. But the actual transmission mechanism, in other words, the take-up has been very slow, and that's because of the stringent conditions. And I think what probably needs to happen for some greater transmission of credit growth in the economy needs to be a relaxation of credit standards.
A tie-in yesterday's State of the Nation address by President RAMAPHOSA into today's Lesage's SARB's governor's statement on the state of the economy.
Yeah, I think the president is certainly reflecting quite a bit of concern if one looks deeper into the statement. I think he is looking at tourism to help boost the recovery, because if we can see an influx of foreign tourists, and in particular taking advantage of the South African summer, in other words, things returning to largely normal. There's a whole lot of linkages that come in other words, multipliers that come in with that, from air travel and the logistics chain related to air travel. That industry is flat on its back at the moment, to hotels, to the restaurant industry, taxis, etc. A number of multipliers actually start to get wind in their sails, and that'll help the fourth quarter, and I think it'll help rescue the economy in a sense, from the direst predictions, if we can get that right. So we really do need to actually focus on getting the economy back to normal as soon as possible.
Chris, what's your outlook on the South African economy from October the 1st, when international flights resume, perhaps getting some soft landing for the South African Airways as well?
Yeah, I think my view is that we do need to look at serious structural reforms to actually put South Africa back onto a more competitive footing. We cannot overregulate and overtax and expect investment to come here. If anything, we're struggling to hold onto local investment. To get the recovery, we do need to be able to attract investment. Interest rates alone won't do it. I don't see the political will to get there. If anything, we've got tighter and tighter central planning type of controls coming into the economy, which means that the ultimate longer-term economic bounce back will not be back to normal. There will be some loss and a point where we don't recover further because of the lack of new investment. We need to boost savings, we need to boost investment, and that's a critical starting point, which is not where attention is not being paid.
Chris Hart at Impact Investment Africa, thank you so much for your time this evening. We appreciate that.